Welcome to a new episode of Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a former basketball great in the legendary Butch Lee. After a solid college career at Marquette University, in which he led them to the 1977 NCAA title, Lee made history a year later when he became the first Puerto Rican and Latin American-born athlete to play in the NBA. He was selected in the first round of the '78 draft. While in the association, he played for the Atlanta Hawks, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Los Angeles Lakers. He won a championship with the Lakers alongside Magic Johnson in 1980. After his NBA days, Lee returns to Puerto Rico, where he served as the head coach for several teams in the Puerto Rican Basketball League. He also has a son, Matthew, who was part of a major story in March Madness last year, helping St. Peter's to a historic run into the Elite Eight. We now welcome Butch to this live stream of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into this live edition of Listen In with KNN, sports talk radio show and podcast coming to you live this Tuesday out of Washington, D.C. I am super excited for today's show because we're bringing on a guest that has knowledge and experience about what it means to win on the highest of levels as an NBA champion, but also on the college level at the highest of levels as a collegiate basketball national champion. And then if that's not enough, we also like to make history on this show. So on this show, our special guest today, Butch Lee, was also the first Puerto Rican and first Latin American-born athlete to play in the NBA. So we're going to touch on all that and more right before you all get ready for March Madness. And the first four games are beginning tonight. So again, bringing somebody in with knowledge of the game of basketball, and basketball has spread throughout his family. Bring your questions, bring your comments, and we are going to have fun for the next hour. So without further ado, please help me welcome in my very special guest, Butch Lee, to the show. Butch, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm fine. How you doing? I hope I'm all set.
You are good, Butch. We can hear you. We can see you. I'm so excited to have you because, again, it's March, Butch. Isn't this one of the best times of the year, especially for someone like you that knows what it takes to win in March? But before we get there and talk about all that great stuff, how are you? How's your family? You're in Puerto Rico right now, right?
I'm doing fine. I'm in Puerto Rico. Everybody is fine. I'm here with my wife, Rachel. My oldest son, he's in New York. And my two younger sons, one is in Missouri State. That's Matthew Lee that played with St. Peter's last year. They had that great run during the tournament.
We remember that run, Butch. What a run that was. You had the whole nation watching St. Peter's.
And then my younger son, Brandon, he's at the Patriot School in New Jersey. So he's trying to follow in his brother and his father's footsteps to become another NCAA basketball player.
I love it. So basically basketball in the genes is what I'm hearing from you, Butch. Those good genes passed
That,
down to the sons. And you have 3 sons, right?
yeah, I have 3. The oldest one, he's the only one. That's Keith. He's the only one that didn't play. But Matthew and Brandon, those are the players.
I love it. I love it. Again, following in dad's footsteps. Why don't we just start there? Because I want to start with the basketball madness. Everyone's beginning to reach out to me, Butch. Kelsey, my bracket, what do I do? Who do I pick? So I want to go back to last year, though, because what you said was huge. Your son, Matthew Lee, if you guys taking you back to last year, the St. Peter's guard. Remember the Cinderella story that was St. Peter's. Cinderella story being Matthew Lee being one of the Peacock's key players. He was named a ball handling wizard. He also rocked your number 15 jersey, which I know made you proud, but just wow. And what St. Peter's was able to do, you as a father, what was it like watching your son be able to honestly do the impossible with his squad last season?
That was such an incredible moment for me. Ever since Matthew was little, the people would always ask him, "Oh, you play basketball?" And he would say yes. And they said, "You're going to be good like your father?" He said yes. He didn't know what all that it takes, but he did a great job. We played a lot of basketball. We did a lot of practicing.
Yeah.
And he developed into a very good basketball player. And I was so proud of him. I told my wife, I said, "You're going to see this year what a big thing it was that Matthew did last year, because everybody is looking to see what teams can come out of the NCAA tournament and what small conference team can beat the big team. So it's going to be pretty exciting."
This is why we all get entrenched, right? March Madness, because basketball is one of those sports you just never know. Your team can be on and your team can be off. You have players that step up, maybe a player that hasn't been maybe the greatest player all year. Like, this is where history is made. This is where people make their mark, such as you did. And just going back to St. Peter's, I want to take people back to this time. I saw a quote from you, but you said it was just very crazy. He said, "I've been talking to my wife and friends. My first NCAA tournament game was against Kentucky. That was in 1975. He said, "We lost to Kentucky." So imagine Matthew, his first NCAA tournament game was against Kentucky. And now we all remember that victory over Kentucky was one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. And your son will forever have his name on that, Butch. That's huge.
That game was so big, right? And it was so big. But the biggest moment for me when Matthew hit those free throws, ever since he was little, we've been working on free throw shooting. I always tell him that the best players, they make the free throws at the end of the game.
Right.
And for me to be in the stands with about 20 seconds left to go in the game and he have a chance to make those free throws. Yeah. And he made both of them. After the game, he came over in front of the stands and, he raised his hands and looking right at me. And I know he was proud, and I was even prouder of him.
Oh my gosh. Again, just special moments. You can't recreate that, just how special that was. And Matthew, raised by you in Puerto Rico, again, learning the game from you. So just going off of that, let's talk about what it was like, Butch, for you. Obviously, you were born in Puerto Rico, right? I know you are proud of that, but then you actually moved to Harlem when you were a young child. But I wanted to talk to you about when basketball started for you. Like, when did that love of the game grow for you? Was it in Harlem? Was it in Puerto Rico? Explain that story to us.
No, I was born in Puerto Rico, but I grew up in Harlem. I grew up on 153rd Street, 8th Avenue, which is 2 blocks from the Rucker Park, the famous playground park. And so I think I have, when they talk about people being born with a silver spoon, I was born with a silver spoon when you relate it to basketball. I saw all the great players in the Rucker Park, from Tiny Archibald. I saw Julius Erving when he was just doing the regular dunks, before he even started with his show. And at that same time, we had Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier were the guards for the New York Knicks, who were also champions. So I kind of grew up in the perfect environment to be a good player, And when I first got to New York, I used to run. I used to like running, And in my street, I had a PAL, which was the Police Athletic League, would come every summer. So I would always be racing. And one day my friend told me, "Yo, here we don't race, we play basketball," So I guess I was about 9 or 10 years old. I started playing basketball, but they
had to convert you over, right, Butch? No more running. You're going to get on the court. No more running around. We want you on the basketball court. They converted you.
Yeah, we don't run. We play basketball.
And it sounds like New York. You know, when you think about New York, you think about basketball. So again, you go from Puerto Rico, right? Being born to your parents, Gloria and Alfred Lee Sr. You go on to play basketball where you become a first team PSAL All City basketball player and honor student. Let's make sure we say that. So a true student athlete, right? At DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx. So take me through your high school basketball career, because obviously you were able to excel to the highest of levels.
Well, that was the next step. After you become a good player, then you have to get to a good school. You have to get to the right school.
Right.
I was on my way to in my neighborhood. They would go to Brandeis High School and Hughes High School, and I told all my friends, "No, I'm going to DeWitt Clinton. That's where the top players are. They have the most city championship." And They told me, "Don't go over there. You won't make the team." And sure enough, I went there my first year and I didn't make the team, and not the varsity team. I didn't make the junior varsity. But my next year I came back. But you can imagine that long train ride home, and I had to explain to everyone what happened that I didn't make the team.
Right.
But little by little, working hard, I kept working on my game and free throw shooting, jump shooting, and I got better and better. And I was able to become an all-city in New York, which was like the highest level for the city basketball players.
Yeah, it's like the Hollywood level for the city basketball players. Again, because you named some of the people that come out of New York. New York is not easy to come out of. Again, so much talent in that New York pool. And so you go from high school basketball, and you're beginning to get all of these offer letters, right? And you eventually accept an offer to play at Marquette University, where you started from 1974 to 1978. Butch, what colleges were offering you letters when you were in high school? And what did the decision come down to for you?
You know what happened with me after we won the championship in 1973? That was my junior year. Right. I went to the famous 5-star basketball camp after that summer, and I still have the record today. I scored 50 points in one game at the camp. Wow. And after that, I was getting letters like from everyone. I would get 3 and 4 letters every day. My whole neighborhood knew I was getting all these letters and seeing the mailman come with all these letters. So that's when everything started. I was interested in Duke University, which wasn't as good as Duke is nowadays. Right. But Jacksonville and Marquette. And I really liked Marquette because I knew a little bit about them since Dean Meminger came from New York. Right. So they were always like the front runner. And when I went to visit, I just really took with the guys, Bo Ellis, Lloyd Walton, Earl Tatum. We had a real good camaraderie. Yeah. And that's when I decided to go to Marquette.
And you named some of those big names there. And obviously you chose the right school. You went on to record 1,735 points during your career there. And get this, folks, still good for the number 2 spot all time at Marquette. So Butch wasn't playing around there, basically, to say. And then if that's not enough, you talked about free throws. His free throw percentage was 84.8, which tops all time. So when he's talking about going to the line, he means it, and he demonstrated it throughout his basketball career. But, to go on to that, you also had your jersey retired. And I want to talk about what you did at Marquette, but I want to go back to your number 15 jersey and what it was like for you, to go back to school and see your jersey forever, in the Raptors and your history, right? Forever entrenched with Marquette University basketball and, of course, the university.
No, that was a big deal. I wore that. Actually, I got that number from Earl Monroe. My favorite number used to be number 10. Yeah. And then that's when he played with the Bullets. But when he moved to New York, Walt Frazier had 10. He had to start using number 15. So that's when I started using 15. Right. And it's such a big thing. I have so many friends. They take pictures of the jersey. A lot of people from Puerto Rico, they go see the Bucks and they go see Marquette. And every once in a while, I'll get a text message with a photo of the jersey hanging over there. And it's very special, that you can see the jersey hanging. Not only do it hang for the Marquette games, but since they play in the same stadium as the Bucks, every time you see, not every time, but once in a while, you'll see someone shooting a free throw, and then you'll see the jersey hanging in the background. So it's pretty impressive.
That's huge. That's huge. And only so many players can say they've had their jersey retired, but and just to hear folks here and also in Puerto Rico, going crazy, for that. I think it's such a special moment. All right, but let's get to the moment everybody wants to talk about. So take me back to that national championship game. This was back in 1977 when you helped lead Marquette to the Final Four, right? And what your then coach, McGuire, had announced would be his final season, and the final against North Carolina. Butch Lee right here scored 19 points and led the Warriors from a come-from-behind victory, 67-59, to secure the national championship. And you, Butch, were named the tournament's most outstanding player. This is when you were 6 foot, about 185 junior. You played 40 minutes in this game. Take me back to that moment, Butch, and what that was like for you, especially had to be special for Coach, basically saying I'm about to wrap it up, and you guys give him the greatest parting gift of all.
That was such an incredible season. The year before, we were ranked number 2 all year behind Indiana, that was number 1 and won the national championship. And I remember that summer, I was telling Bo Ellis, I said, Bo, this is our year. We're going to be the champ. This is going to be our year. And we were preseason number 1 ranked. But during the course of the year, Al McGuire, he announced his retirement. Right. So that kind of took everybody for a spin. We were a little crazy. I think we finished the season losing like 3 games in a row. Everybody was concerned if we were even going to make the NCAA tournament. But once we got in, we felt like we had the best team in the country, so that was a chance for us to prove it. Most of the people think, and it's a good story if we did it for Al, but we knew we had a great team that year.
Right.
And, each year is so different. You cannot pass that up. So we had to give it our all. And we wind up playing some great basketball, and we made it happen. So the players were happy. Al was happy. We were happy for Al. He's happy for us. Milwaukee is happy.
Happiness all around. Everybody was
happiness
just happy.
All around.
You couldn't get enough of it. And going back to Coach Al, I believe he was 48 years old at the time. And, just going back you touched on it. Some of the motivation was for Al, but you talked about how great the team was. But take me back to the moment when you all had gathered at a Milwaukee restaurant called The Clock, when he actually told you all he was going to retire. Because as the story is told, Butch, and you can clean this up for us, but it said most of the players and the coaches actually cried all night when this announcement was made.
No, that was a very sad day. And, we didn't really know what was going on. We here trying to win a championship, and we had a great team. We've been having a great team from the time I was there. We had a sellout crowd of over 13,000 every game. And all of a sudden, Al said he's retiring. We're like, what? We didn't understand what was going on. All of us were about 20 years old.
Right.
And, so it was a tough moment for us, because we didn't really understand what was happening. And it came as such a surprise. Why is this not happening at the end of the year and happening in the middle of the year? So it was a tough moment for us. And that kind of backed us up a little bit. But we regained our footing, and we were able to make it happen.
Make it happen in the largest way. You all went on to win in front of 16,000 people. 16,000. Which what was that like for you? I mean, the atmosphere is so important. I don't think there's any atmosphere, right? Like a national championship game. Everything's on the line, half and half between the fans. And you were able to do that. You look at the games now, obviously much more people, but take me back to playing in front of 16,000 people and the nerves that have to be going through your body.
Well, one of the good things about us, we played in the Mecca that held like around 11 or 12,000 people. So we were one of the universities that were accustomed to that big crowd. Like I said, my whole 4 years, we had a sellout crowd for our home game. So we were kind of accustomed to that kind of environment, the big stage with a lot of fans. And maybe it was different for some other teams, but we were kind of prepared for that, and that's the kind of, Al was such an incredible coach, I find out stuff about him every day, I tell you, and he kind of prepared us, always talking about the big stage and how basketball was big for us, but in life, it wasn't as big as it was for us, but he kind of helped us become young men at an early stage.
which is so important because a coach is so much more, right, than just, what you see on the basketball coach. They play, I think, a pivotal, role, right, in young men's lives. And so it's great to see, even till this day, it sounds like, you're still hearing great things about Al. And that just shows you, again, just all the many facets of him. And so I appreciate you touching on that, Butch. And again, just staying with this incredible story, you all were able to have wins against teams like Cincinnati, Kansas State, Wake Forest, right, in the first 3 rounds of that tournament to earn the trip to Atlanta, where you eventually won. You also had a chance to defeat UNC Charlotte 51-49 in the semifinal round. So again, not easy to get to that moment, but such a special moment. When you look at all that you've done, Butch, where does the national championship stand for you? In terms of all that you've done and all the accomplishments, where does that moment stand for you?
Well, that's my biggest moment. I had a great game in the Olympics in 1976 when I represented Puerto Rico, and we gave the U.S. a scare in that I think it was 96, 95.
Yeah.
That was a thriller, but that was one game. When you talk about playing NCAA basketball, that's a career.
Right.
And it's no doubt, like, winning the national championship, that's the biggest moment in my basketball career.
Yeah.
The work that goes into it day in and day out. And then you have a tournament where it's so fragile because even the best team, you miss a foul shot here and there, you get an offensive foul here or there, and it can change the whole course of your career.
Right.
We were able to make it happen. And at the moment, you're all excited and it's a big thing. But as time goes on, as years go on, you start understanding how big it was, and it's bigger than what you understood in the beginning.
Yeah, that's huge. And when you go back now and talk to the university, what's it like for you to share that experience with the current players? Do you feel like they're taking in what you were able to do and how hard of a feat that was, Butch?
That's a good point you make, because all the teachers and all the older people, you talk with the kids and you wonder if they're taking it in or not. I had a great experience with Matthew and Brandon also. Both of them are real good players, but when Matthew got on the free throw line against Kentucky, he did it in all the games, but the first time was against Kentucky, and he had to make those clutch free throws. That's when I knew that he was paying attention.
He was actually listening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So those young guys, maybe not all of them take it in, but you have enough of them that will take it in and will use it in the future.
Which is huge. And I do want to go back to the Olympics, and I definitely want to talk about what Marquette University was able to do this year, because also very impressive. But I really want to go to some of the questions we have from some of our live guests. This one's from Chris Pompey. He wants to know your favorite arena you played in and the toughest opponent you've gone up against. Let's limit this to the collegiate career, Butch.
Well, playing in Marquette, that's something special. Playing in the Mecca when we played, that was a special environment.
Yeah.
And the toughest game I ever played in was when we won the championship. We played against Kansas State. That was our first or second game. And I kept thinking we were down like 10 points almost the whole game. And I was like, how are we going to win the championship if we can't get past Kansas State? So I was very nervous. I was very nervous in that game. That would have to be my hardest game.
Your hardest game. Appreciate you answering that. And now let's talk about Marquette this year. You got to be happy, Butch, right now, right, for what they were able to just do. If folks haven't been paying attention to basketball, winning the first Big East championship after 18 seasons in the conference, Butch, that's huge.
Yes, it is. I was in New York, and I had a chance to see them play against St. John's, and that was my first time actually seeing Marquette play outside of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there right behind the bench. I got a chance to hear Shaka Smart talk, the players talk, how they reacted with one another, and I had a chance to talk with them after the game in the locker room.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure. Those guys have a great team, and they don't have all the greatest players. They don't have all the All-Americans, but they have a great camaraderie, and they play tough defense. I was so happy to see them and to talk with them, but now is the hard part begins, trying to trying to reach that level, because there's a lot of expectations. I've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of texts, and let's see what happens, because it's a big step and it's a big mountain. So let's see how it goes. But I'm pulling for them.
It's not easy, as you said. This is just the first step, just going back what they were able to accomplish. Folks, this game in the Garden was the first #1 seed versus #2 seed Big East tournament final in 19 years. When you think about what Marquette was able to do over Xavier. So, I mean, just again, history and the making, liking it. We already got a question for you. They want to know, Butch, who you're picking to win the NCAA March Madness tournament. Are you going with the home team?
I'm gonna go with Marquette.
Of course, he has to. Folks, what do you think he was going to say? He can't say any other school. But that's why we love March, again, because anything can happen. And staying on college, we got a great question. This is from my mother, Butch, Libby Bird Nelson. Hey, Butch, did you play against Michigan State when Irvin Magic Johnson was there?
That probably was a good thing, but I didn't. I was in, when you're in college, you're always looking at the other top teams play.
Right.
So I got a chance to see him playing on TV. And I kept saying to myself, it's no way that he's just 18 or 19 years old. He was so big and so good. I never thought that he was just 18 years old, but he was a great player.
A great player. We also got, did you play against Indiana versus Larry Bird?
No, I didn't play against Larry. I didn't play against Larry Bird either.
Everybody wants to know the tough matchups that you face. And, just staying on Marquette really quickly, I think even more so why it was so impressive what they did. If you go back to the preseason Big East poll, they were picked to finish 9th of 11 teams. All right. 9th of 11 teams. And they went on to win the tournament. So that just shows you never know what's going to happen. If you're rooting for Marquette like Butch, they're going to play the number 15 seed Vermont on Friday. So we know what you'll be doing on Friday, Butch. We'll be watching that game, hoping Marquette could get to the next level.
And when these TV hosts start making all these predictions, then you can realize that maybe your prediction might be just as good as them, because they were very wrong about Marquette this year.
There you go. And again, this is why we love college basketball. So folks, when you're picking your bracket, truly know it's anybody's game, because anything can happen with college basketball. And I want to go back to the Olympics you spoke about, and Butch is spot on. This is taking you back, folks, when Puerto Rico played against the U.S. This is back in the 1976 Summer Olympics. And Butch was very humble because he made 15 out of the 18 field goals that he shot, scoring 35 points. And he was right. It was a one point game, folks, when the U.S. avoided the upset that Butch mentioned when defeating Puerto Rico 95-94. You almost caused a world war, Butch, with this game. When it comes to basketball, we get sensitive. We have to dominate in the Olympics, Butch, and almost did it against your second home country.
In the heat of the moment, you just want to do your best basketball. You don't know what the repercussions might be. But we had a great team. In Puerto Rico, we have players. They call them Neo Ricans. They Puerto Ricans, but they grew up playing basketball in New York. So we actually had a lot of real good players. They weren't household names as far as NCAA, but they grew up in New York playing good basketball. So they get to the court and they not afraid of anybody. We had a great team, and we did a great job that day. That was something special.
Yeah, that New York toughness that you guys displayed. And I want to go back to the story, though, of you getting to the Olympics. So as I understand it was back in 1974, right? When you asked your head coach to allow you to play for the United States Olympic basketball team. But it sounds like your coach told you that he had sent someone else, and that's why you had to go play for Puerto Rico, right, Butch? Where you were able to qualify.
A lot of people, I'm gonna straighten out that story.
Yeah, let's straighten it up. This is what we do on the show.
When I was at Marquette, it was my second year. I was a sophomore during the Olympics. So I was one of the younger guys on the team. Right. And when Dean Smith, when he recruited players for the tryout, Al McGuire sent his 3 oldest players, which was Earl Tatum, Bo Ellis, and Lloyd Walton. So you're not going to have like everybody invited to the tryouts. So those 3 were invited to the tryouts. The year before, I had started playing in Puerto Rico, and I knew I would be eligible for the national team if I made it. So I did make the national team. So I was never invited to the USA team, and I didn't know, I didn't have anybody to ask, So I
Yeah.
never asked anybody, and I never was invited. But I represented Puerto Rico, and we almost had the biggest upset in history.
My gosh, but I don't know if you would have had many friends after that game. would have been a lot of hurt hearts, and I appreciate you touching on that. I want to go back to a question we have from the audience, going back to your New York roots. This one's from Jamel Cutler. What's your favorite New York court to play on?
Well, I grew up playing Bill Robinson.
Okay.
That's one of our great dancers and movie stars. He had a court named after him on 150th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. And even though I grew up right next to the Rucker Park, where the younger guys would play and hone their skills was in Bill Robinson Park. And I would have to say that would be my favorite park to play in.
Yeah, good answer. And I love the context, surrounding that. So going from the New York courts to now, we're going to transition to the NBA, Butch. When it was back in the 1978 NBA draft, when you were selected in the first round by the Atlanta Hawks, this is when you did go on to become the first Puerto Rican player to play in the National Basketball Association. So take me back to that draft moment, Butch, for you, and what that was like, not for you to just represent, New York, but also to represent Puerto Rico, and show, I think, a new element to the NBA, and really that this really could be for anyone to play at the highest level.
Well, at that time, I was just another young, good player. I was All-American at Marquette, and right. I had seen all the players ahead of me get drafted. So I was expecting to get drafted once I finished my college career.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time that I was going to be the first Latin player to play in the NBA or anything like that. I understood that later on, but I was very proud to,
right.
to represent my family, my neighborhood,
yeah.
and all the people, all the fans that I had, the people that helped me get to that level, the ones that pushed me, the coaches I had a great coach in high school, John
right.
Wiles, my AAU coach, Herman Harrell, Jelly Roll, we used to call him,
yeah.
So I had a lot of great coaches coming up, and Al McGuire, Rick Majerus, Hank Raymond, so I was kind of groomed for that moment. So when it happened, it wasn't a big surprise or anything, but I was just proud that I had represented all the people that supported me over the years.
That's huge. Just going back to Puerto Rico, because I want to dig into this more and just, your background and identifying as somebody, right, from Latin America. For you, when people see you, but I'm assuming, they see a Black man, but we know there's so many more layers to that, right, with the, Afro-Latino and, all that complex. So for you, I just wanted to kind of break that down with how you identify, and why this moment, again, was so special for Puerto Rico to be able to see someone like you from the hometown on the largest stage.
Well, Puerto Rico, it's a small island,
right?
And it's like 35 miles by 100 miles. It's small in territory, but big in heart. We have the king in reggaeton, which is Bad Bunny.
He's yes, y'all do.
We've had the great boxers over the years. And for me to lend my part as a professional basketball player, that made me very proud. It's proud of all the Puerto Ricans are proud. My family is proud. My son's growing up and taking over that mantle. So it was a great moment in time, and I'm very proud of that.
That's huge. And Butch, do you speak Spanish at all?
Yes, I do. Y cada vez que yo hablo español,
there we go.
I do speak Spanish. And every time when I would talk with my mother or she'd be on the phone, she'd hear me speaking Spanish, she would be so amazed. She would start crying sometimes, because I grew up in New York.
Right.
And I didn't speak Spanish. I learned Spanish when I got to Puerto Rico. So every time she would hear me in the background talking Spanish, she was very proud of that.
So special. You speak it well, but I would have never known. It sounds like from the beginning, very, very well. I wanted to ask again, I never assumed, but I think that's huge. Again, that's why it's so important to see you talking on the screen. There's probably someone in Puerto Rico now, said, I want to be like Butch Lee. I want to be the next Butch Lee. And that's why I think I love having these real conversations. And then we got to set the record straight, Butch, on a couple of things so we can make sure that the story is told right from here on out. And, going back to the NBA, let's go back to let's start with the Atlanta Hawks, who we know your first season in the NBA, 1978 to 1979. You actually started with the Hawks where you averaged about 7.7 points per game during 49 games. Let's talk about your experience playing in Atlanta.
No, that was a big experience for me. I felt real good. I was expecting to tear up the NBA. I started off, I think I scored 18 or 20 points in my first game as a rookie. So I was very excited. Hubie Brown was my coach. I had known him from 5-star basketball camp, so I was very comfortable there. We had Dan Roundfield, Armand Hill was the point guard. Those were like great guys. So that was like a great environment for me to enter the NBA with those kind of players. And also at that time, maybe George Gervin could have been like the best player in the league at that time, or one of the top 5. Yeah. And I remember when I played against him, he came over to me and shook my hand and everything and said, welcome to the NBA. So I had a great first year. I had a great time.
That's huge. That's huge. I appreciate you reflecting on those great memories. And, now let's transition to the Cleveland Cavaliers, because you ended up getting traded to the Cavs, where some would say you probably enjoyed the best games in the league, scored about 11.5 points per game in the remaining 33 games of the season, which was huge, scoring an average of 9.6 points per game. But, let's talk about now going to Cleveland, what it's like to get traded. That experience, obviously, you get to the NBA, you get traded, you're with a new team, and then you have to learn a whole new system, right? Meet all new guys and almost kind of restart, right, Butch?
It was a little creepy in the beginning, but right then I had just left Marquette, so you're already making a change going from the university to the NBA.
To the pro,
so another change, even though it was a little funny, it was okay because that's the business that we're in. I wasn't in Atlanta that long to, like sometimes you'd be in a place for like 8 years and then you get traded. You have kids in school and have to change around a lot of things. With me, I was single. I didn't have any kids, so it was another stop. And I was going to play with my good friend, Jimmy Jones, who had played at Marquette. So I had known him. So I got a chance to get together with him. So that was like a good experience also in Cleveland.
Huge. And let's talk about your experience in Cleveland. Unfortunately, though, Butch, I know after a couple of games, you suffered an injury, right? That was a big injury for you. And then, after that, I know it was a bit different. But that's also like a mental thing, too, right? You're playing in the NBA. You're playing at the highest level. You talked about it. You want to be the best in the NBA, and then all of a sudden an injury happens. So, take me back through that moment, what that was like for you, just, trying to figure out what was next.
That was a tough time. That happened actually I finished the year in Cleveland, and then the summer before the following season, I was working out and I hurt my leg at that point. And I didn't know I didn't fall down or anything like that. So when I went to the doctor, for complaining about my soreness and I was hurt, he told me I had a torn cartilage, and I was torn. What? I'm saying, what did I tear? I didn't even fall down or anything.
Right? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. So it was a little funny what happened, but you just kind of deal with that stuff. I always thought that I was going to be a basketball player and be a businessman, and Al McGuire kind of groomed us to kind of, to be a little strong in the different situations and stuff, so I thought that was, it was unfortunate, but those are things that happened,
And it's how you bounce back, right? I think that's what life is, Butch, how you come back through adversity. A lot of times we have these plans, you don't put little uh-ohs or oops in your plans, right? Because in our minds, everything's going to be perfect. It's going to work out, but things happen, right? And so I think life is so much about how you rebound, and you talked about it. You already wanted to be more than basketball. You talked about being a businessman and so much more, which we're going to talk about, because after basketball, you went on to do a lot of great things. But I'm sure people are looking at me like, Kelsey, we see the stuff behind him. Lots of Lakers fans watch this show, but so we got to transition over to the Los Angeles Lakers. So we talked about it. You're in Cleveland. Cleveland. Then you get traded once again, this time, though, to the Los Angeles Lakers. And this time, folks, you guys mentioned Magic Johnson before. He got to play alongside, right, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, among others, right, for about 11 games. And you went on to do something kind of cool because you went on to become a champion, which is, I mean, does it get better than that? I mean, that sounds like the perfect Cinderella story ending.
You know, like I was saying, you know, my basketball career has been so incredible. I wouldn't trade it for anyone. You know, I won a championship in high school. I won a championship in Puerto Rico. I won a championship NCAA, and getting with the Lakers, I was able to win an NBA championship.
Huge.
And I think I'm the only player with those 4 different titles, you know.
I think so, Butch. I really think so.
So to grow up where I grew up, and basketball being such a big thing, you know, when I got with the Lakers, it was so special.
Yeah.
You know, probably I've played with the greatest point guard of all time, and probably the greatest center of all time. You know, so finishing my career with them, winning the national championship, playing with Magic Johnson every day in practice, watching Kareem throw that sky hook every day in practice. you can imagine it was incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't even that big of a fan of Kareem, because with that sky hook, it was like he was always playing by himself. It was like an unfair advantage he had, you know. And I got to see it up close, and it was incredible. Wow. I used to steal, you know, on defense, I would steal the ball from people sometimes, right? I thought I was good at that. And Magic Johnson, you know, he's so big and strong at practice. I would try to steal the ball, and he was like, well, give me that elbow to the head, like, back up, little man.
At least you tried, Butch. That's what counts. You tried. All you can do is try. So Lakers fans, yes, he's talking about the NBA championship. Lakers went on to beat the Philadelphia 76ers in the season's NBA Finals. Again, just truly an incredible moment. And while we're talking about the Lakers, Butch, I might as well get your thoughts on the Lakers this year. They're in a little bit of, maybe, I don't know if turmoil is the word, but they're going through some stuff, right? LeBron injury, trying to get this team healthy, trying to get this team to come together, because, you know, we're getting to that time. We've got less than a month in the NBA regular season. Right now, they're 9th in the Western Conference standings. We know now everyone's kind of playing for seeding. So just your kind of thoughts on the current state of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, you know, my teams in the NBA that I try to pay attention to are the Knicks, the Lakers, and Cleveland, right?
Okay.
And the Knicks, they've been so quiet for so many years that I couldn't talk too much, but now they're doing well.
They
but
are.
You have the Knicks and the Lakers that is no off time for them. You know, they have to bring out a great product to the floor every moment. So that's a tough situation. You know, whatever the Lakers do is hard. And then Cleveland, you know, nobody is expecting that much, and they're the ones that's doing real good. But I think the Lakers, they could be all right. You know, LeBron James is a big time player. He's a big player. So he you know, you only have 5 players on the court at one time.
Right.
And he plays almost as 2 or 3 players. So they almost always have an advantage when he's on the court. Yeah. But that's a tough situation with the injuries they have. So you never know what's going to happen. I'm expecting him to be back. And I think the Lakers will be okay. I think they'll be okay. The Knicks are doing good, and Cleveland is doing good. So between my NBA teams and college basketball on the horizon, I'm feeling very good.
Your picks are solid this year. Marquette's looking good. Like you said, your teams are still doing pretty good in the NBA. So right now it's just Butch Lee's time, basically, is what we're hearing. And going to Cleveland, we actually got a great question again from Chris Pompey. Thoughts on Ted Stephen as the Cavaliers owner and playing at the Richfield Coliseum?
That was a great time. You know, when I got to Cleveland, I had a little more freedom because Hubie Brown in Atlanta, you know, he runs a very tight ship. In Cleveland, Bill Fitch was my coach, and I got a chance. I had my career high in Cleveland. I've scored 15 points in a couple quarters, so I was able to kind of relax and start getting my groove on in Cleveland. You know, thanks to Bill Fitch, but we had a good bunch of guys over there. Austin Carr played in the backcourt with Austin Carr, Foots Walker. Campy Russell and my friend Jimmy Jones. So we had a great time over there in Cleveland. We didn't win as many games as I wanted to, but we did okay.
At least you keep it 100. You keep it a buck. But good memories. And then Chris has one more great question for you. Thoughts on the 80 NBA Finals versus Sixers, Dr. J and the Spectrum?
Well, like I told you, growing up in New York City, yeah. I saw Julius Erving playing the Rucker Park when he was just starting out as a professional, So I seen him grow through the years. So it was pretty exciting getting a chance to play against him and seeing him on the court. And then when you add Kareem and Magic Johnson, that was a great mix that during those times. I know between the Celtics, Philadelphia, and the Lakers, they were winning all those championships. But Julius Erving was an incredible player, a real nice guy. And all of those guys are good guys. So we didn't really have that many crazies on the court with us. So it was a great tournament.
A great tournament indeed. We got a great question from Kenny. I don't know how much you watch him, but Anthony Edwards, he said, is my favorite young star. He's only 21 years old and is an all-star, already averaging around 25 points per game with elite defense. So he wants to ask your thoughts on Anthony Edwards.
Well, Anthony Edwards is a monster, no question about it. Not only does he has a tough game, he has the attitude, and my young son, Brandon, he's about 6'4", 6'5". So I always tell him to keep an eye on Anthony Edwards. That's a good choice.
It's a good choice. Here to hear, Kenny. And the questions keep coming. Jamel Cutler wants to know thoughts on Carlos Arroyo. I hope I said that right.
Well, Carlos Arroyo is one of the top guards of all time in Puerto Rico. He did a great job. He didn't get drafted, but he played in the NBA along with J.J. Barea. And Carlos Arroyo, no doubt, he's one of the top players in Puerto Rico. He's one of the top players in the world at one moment, but he represented Puerto Rico well. He had a team that they beat the USA team that I didn't. So he got a lot of fame for that. But he's a good guy, and he's a friend of mine.
Love that. As we talk about the NBA, I kind of want to transition, Butch, to some of the current things happening in the NBA right now. And I want to transition to the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant. And, as someone who's been in an NBA locker room, know what it's like to have a veteran presence. As we honestly just keep this young man in prayers, is checked in to a rehab facility to get some help. Obviously, his life story is kind of out there right now. Some of the legal things he's been involved in, of course, the strip club incident now for public consumption. But, a young superstar, right, in the NBA, a guy that's obviously, going to continue to achieve, I think, great success in the NBA. You look at his sneaker, and just everything that he's done. But as we look at Ja Morant and kind of what's unfolded before our eyes, at the worst timing, right? I mean, we're getting closer now to looking at Memphis and the postseason and the NBA. I just would like, if you have any thoughts, on him and, just maybe any words of advice that you could give, a young guy like him.
Well, our prayers go out to Ja Morant. I grew up in Harlem, like I told you. And so I knew players, we grew up in the inner city. And it's not that easy, the toughness of the inner city helps to make you into a great player. Right. But it also carries some baggage. Some of the things that you see, it almost become normal. And it's not normal, but you see it so much, it becomes normal. So you might start doing things that you might regret, that you don't know the severity of it until it bites you, So our prayers go out to Ja Morant, and just like so many of us, we came through those tough neighborhoods, and we learn and we get better. So I'm sure that's the same thing is going to happen to him. He'll get better. He'll get better as he goes on, as a player and as a person.
And it's promising to hear that, because I'll be honest, but some people are saying his career is going to be over and all these things. I'm like, no. He's a young man. We all go through things. Of course, his life, though, was in the public eye and, obviously public consumption. And everyone has their thoughts, on social media. But I do think he'll bounce back. I hope he comes out of this stronger. But I truly do hope he knows that everyone does wish him, the best. Again, I don't think any of us should be judged, for some of the worst kind of seconds, of our lives or, just for decisions that we've made. Again, he's young. All of us could look back and probably look back at things we wish we would have did better.
Imagine I got cut from my high school team Jordan got cut from his high school team. So it's early still for him.
Right. And so again, life will go on for Ja. Again, all prayers to Ja Morant to get better. And then quickly transitioning back to you, Butch, I want to talk about life after basketball. We have all these great memories. We have all these great stories. And Butch, you didn't even show the people the great poster behind you that you showed me before the show. Look, y'all, Butch is a living, look at that picture, folks. Living history right behind Butch, and Lakers fans will obviously
that big game that Magic Johnson had. I was going to go in the game for him at the end of the game so he can get a standing ovation for that big game he had. So we just met at half court in that iconic photo. So that was a great moment.
That's huge. And like you said, iconic photo. This is something you can Google, people, and it will come up anywhere. Going off of that, I'm just going to go to questions. People want to ask you more questions than me, Butch. Chris wants to know, Butch, have you thought about writing a book? He's hearing all these great stories that you're telling. Are we getting the Butch Lee biopic, novel, anything?
Well, maybe we might get something after a while. We might get something.
We're putting it into the universe. All right. So if he puts it out, everybody on the show better get the book. And really quickly, Jamel wants to know, did you play pro ball in Puerto Rico when Phil Jackson was coaching in the area?
Yeah, I did play in Puerto Rico. Phil Jackson coached here, and Bernie Bickerstaff was my coach. So they had a lot of NBA coaches at that time. Del Harris was coaching, Bernie Bickerstaff, PJ Carlesimo, Casey Jones coached my team when Bernie wasn't here. But I was here when Phil coached, yes.
Amazing. So again, just you see all the ties between everyone and everything in the basketball community. But again, transitioning back to life after basketball, you did a couple of things. I know you and a partner started Harvey Land and Shelter Company back in Cleveland, right? And then you also had moved to New York. You spent a year at Fordham's Law School. And then you went back to Puerto Rico, ran a nightclub, right, called Cafe 149. I mean, Butch, what didn't you do after basketball? I mean, it seemed like, and then that's not enough, folks. Also ran a sign company and a basketball academy. So basically, I mean, your life after basketball story just keeps going and going and going and going. So it sounds like you've been able to accomplish pretty much everything you set your mind out to. I'm
very impressed with all that knowledge you have of my business history.
I do my research,
Butch. But I did, I did have a business. I had a nightclub in Ponce. That's the south side of Puerto Rico. I met my wife, not in the nightclub, but I met her in Ponce. But now we live in San Juan. I have a sign company that we've had. It's a Signorama franchise that we've had over 25 years. And I'm in the San Juan area now. So that's what kind of keeps me busy. At one time, I had a basketball academy where I was, because of Matthew and Brandon, my two sons that were playing basketball. So we had a basketball academy trying to train the young guys on how to play the guard position. So that was pretty good. And I think I helped a lot of kids. But that's like the biggest thing in life, really. Once you're able to do things, just kind of paying it forward, helping the kids in the community with the knowledge that you have acquired over the years. So I feel very proud of that, to give them some of the knowledge that I've had.
Amazing. Truly amazing. And if that's not enough, Butch, I think I forgot to mention this, you coach in a Puerto Rican Pro League as well. So basically, that's why they said, Butch, write a book, because you've done it all. You might as well just put it all in a book for someone to consume, So at the end of the day, Butch, when people watch this interview, when they do research on you, when they watch, all these great videos Marquette University puts out about the glory days of Marquette basketball, when you were there, what do you want to be remembered most by?
Well, I was a basketball player. I came from small communities, from Harlem, from Puerto Rico, and I'm just 6 feet tall. So really, through sports, you don't have to be the biggest guy in the world, but through sports, you can get your education paid for. You can become a figure that you can help the community. And that's what I would like to be remembered as, a great player and a great father and a great humanitarian, because all the things I have in my head, whether it be business or sports, I share that with my community.
Huge and so powerful. Now you just made me think of one more question before I let you go. We've got the NIL in college, Butch, now. Are you a fan of it? Seeing players now finally get paid off their name, image, and likeness?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to contact Marquette about my number 15 jersey that I see all over the place. But I think it's a good opportunity for the guys. You know, regular students, they're able to work as they study, and I think that the young players should have that same opportunity. You know, the coaches they coach and they get outside activities and they get paid for outside work. And it's just fair that the players are able to benefit from that also. So I see it good, and I'm happy for it.
Finally getting paid. We're about to get everyone again ready for March Madness. You can listen to, well, you just listen live to your March Madness special edition of Listening with KNN with my special guest, Butch Lee. But before I let you go, lots of people looking at this Alabama team thinking they could potentially win it all. But of course, they have that looming situation kind of hanging over them surrounding, Brandon Miller. And you just also kind of want to get your thoughts, on that. This should hurt his NBA draft prospect, because of his alleged, kind of influence or part and the unfortunate killing of a young woman, just any part that he had. So I just wanted to ask your thoughts on that. Some feeling like Alabama's getting a lot of heat right now on social media, and Brandon Miller, again, all alleged. We'll see what comes out legally, but just your thoughts on that situation with this young man who obviously on the basketball court is a star.
I think he's going to be all right too. Again, I grew up in Harlem. It was a rough environment. And that you cannot judge everybody by just having a couple of scrapes. It's a tough situation, but a lot of the players, they come from these tough situations. They come from this environment. So we almost have to help them keep growing,
Right.
I'm understanding that he himself didn't do anything wrong, but
right.
You're in that environment, we all from that environment, we know the guys that do the crooked stuff,
right.
and that you walk by him one time in the street or you had lunch with him one time, it doesn't make you that same person. So we need help to get better and stuff. And little by little, I think that John Morant, Brandon Miller, they're going to be okay. They just need our support more than our condemnation.
Yeah. And I just think we just need a little bit of love and support in the world in general. But, so much negativity, so much hatred, in the world. And think about, how important it is for all of us to be lifted up again, because none of us want to be judged by our darkest moments. But Butch Lee, it was a true honor and pleasure to have you folks. This is live. Me and Butch just met. This is our first conversation. That's why I love the show.
I'm gonna tell you this. A lot of people call me to talk and to get on shows.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times I'm a little shy about that, but I'm glad I did the show with you.
Thank you.
I mean, it was beautiful. And I had a great time. Thank you very much for having me.
Butch, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. You're our first guest live in Puerto Rico. This was phenomenal and fabulous. And again, just thank you for honestly letting us into your life, giving us more insight. And we're going to continue to wish you the best, your family the best, continue to watch your sons and watch their love of basketball continue to grow. So stay warm, I guess, in Puerto Rico while us in DC just wait for the sunshine to finally hopefully get a little bit warmer so we can get an early taste of summer. Thank you so much, Butch. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you too. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. All right, you all. You just listened again to Butch Lee. You heard him. High school championship, college championship, NBA championship. So super excited to have him on the show. The fun's not going to stop here. Join us back live Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time as I'm going to be joined by National Urban League President Mark Morial. You're not going to want to miss that show. We're going to do a mix of civil rights, sports, politics. Bring your questions, bring your comments. Again, it's going to be lots of fun. For anyone that missed the show, we'll of course post this show for you all to recap later. And we'll also post a written edition of the show on our Fox Sports 1340 AM, 96.9 FM website. Again, as always, so appreciate you all. We also have a lot of great audio shows coming out this week. I'll be joined by Rick Chill and Joe Madden. So look out for those podcast editions of Listening with KNN. But as always, please, please, please enjoy March Madness. Enjoy the sports fun. Go out. Do your sports betting, gamble, but just remember, y'all, it's just sports at the end of the day. Sports we love, sports we will always have, and sports that we will be forever grateful and thank you for. All right, thanks so much, everybody. I will see you all on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM, Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio now offers official Kelsey Nicole Nelson apparel in a variety of styles for men and women. Fashionable shirts, leggings, hats, jackets, and more. Order now and get 15% off and free shipping. Just enter promo code KNN. Get your Listen In with KNN wearables today. And check out Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio with Kelsey Nicole Nelson.